Awesome. So thank you again for introduction, and thank you very much for letting me being here. It's very exciting for me, and I'm really looking forward for all the fun that we will have here together. So first of all, I was actually planning to introduce myself, but I already did that in the Slack channel, and also MJ already said a lot about me, so I will just jump through this. It's very true. Right now I work at Idea Sense, which is an innovation design agency based here in Prague, and I do on daily basis. I do mostly service design, but actually it's also very true that I started my design journey as a product designer, focusing on a physical product, so product or industrial design, and I was focusing mostly on making things look pretty. I was focusing mostly on aesthetics, and it somehow wasn't really enough for me. So I decided to discover more design fields, and I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, where I learned how to apply sustainability principles in design, and I started focusing on social innovation, and I also learned the importance of research in design. And apart from that, I also had a short time discovering UX design, and sometimes I also, even now, I every once in a while do some UX projects. And actually, the topic of travel is very close to me, even work-wise. This is actually me when I was during my time in America, when I was part of a project for Delta Airlines. This was in the discovery phase. It's not a real thing. Yes, and this is me in Kenya. So this is when I went. This was my final project, and I went to Kenya. And this is me interviewing members of the community. This was amazing experience and also very challenging language-wise. And talking about language, I believe that language is a first step in every responsible project and in every community-centered work. So let's see what terms we have here. So we are on the same page. So design, this is a modified definition from IBM, which highlights the importance to think about potential consequences of what we are designing. It's not only the intent that we aimed, but also the unintentional intent and impact. And design thinking, another very common word in our language. This definition that I chose, there is, of course, as I'm sure you all know, a lot of definitions, but this one I particularly like because it highlights that we are using design methods and tools that were not traditionally meant for design-focused areas. And what I do in my work, and what I try to keep in mind, is something that Victor Margolin, a designer, introduced as four-domain design to give you a more idea about what is the fourth domain. I will first introduce the three first domains. So the first domain is graphic design. So it's all the 2D stuff. So graphics and communication design and everything in 2D. The second domain is the 3D design, basically simply said. It's the product design, industrial design, architecture. The third domain is something that I like to call intangible design. So it's designing services and interactions and experiences. And the fourth domain design, how I personally see it, is a combination of these three, but also design of complex systems. And actually, by the definition of Victor Margolin, it's exploring the role of a designer in sustaining, developing, and integrating human beings into broader ecological and cultural environment. Okay, the next term, sustainability. Again, this is a word of many meanings. But in today's era, I think that we mostly use it when we talk about sustainable development. So according to UN, sustainable development is acting a way that we are not compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Sustainability, I'm sure that you are all familiar with this, but anyways, sustainability has 3 pillars or sometimes 4: environmental, social, economic. Sometimes they also mention culture. And of course, if one of these pillars being given a priority, then the system fell. And last but not least, finally, travel. So again, travel, I think it can be understood in many different ways, but here we have it as described as a journey. So it's when we go from point A to point B, usually over some distance, whether it's traveling to the other side of the world or just taking a tram to the office in the morning. And I want to talk about some trends in travel, and just to help myself to frame it somehow, I just drafted this traveler user journey. Please just don't take this as a super final and super dogma. It's very simplified and very, very generalized. So of course, depending on different travels, it would change. And I know that it's you who are specialists in user journey when it comes to travel. But anyways, this is just how I drafted it for the purposes of what I'm going to talk about after this. So how I perceive it is that first we are triggered, so we are motivated, we might be inspired by something or someone to go somewhere or to travel somehow. Then we are planning, whether it's a really long and organized planning, or it's just a really short and quick decision. Buying this is where I see the decision point. It's when we really commit that we will go. It's when we buy the ticket, or we book an Airbnb, or we just put the date in our calendar. It's when we really decide that, okay, we are going. It's happening. It's for sure happening. Then there is preparation. So this is whatever from packing and doing all the last minute preparations before we set off. And then of course, from set off to return, it's a journey itself. And I just listed some potential activities that we might experience during the travel, as shopping, eating out, transportation in the country or in the destination. And then when we go back, it's when the post-trip starts. It's when we debrief, we evaluate, we look at photos, we might be recommending friends, or we might be even thinking of where we go next. And ultimately, this is also what we as service designers want. We want our user to come back and experience it again. But anyways, I'm getting to the trends. So here I'm going to just highlight few trends that are, according to me, according to my personal point of view, somehow related to sustainability and of course travel. So domestic travel, so of course accelerated by corona crisis, as well as staycation, staying at home during the vacation, just doing whatever you would do on a vacation, just being at home. These trends, of course, are not only the result of a corona crisis, it's also a trend becoming popular given the CO2 emissions associated with traveling by plane, but also more and more people starting to prefer slower ways of living, less rush, and just appreciating what we have here close to us, next to us, where we are. Cottage life. So I think that those of you that are of the same generation as I am, you might remember how when we used to be children, our parents would sometimes just tell us like, hey, we are going to the cabin on the weekend, and we'd be like, oh my God, rolling our eyes thinking that we are just going somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Maybe there's not even gonna be warm water and this kind of stuff. But actually today, cottage life is becoming trendy, especially among young generations, and spending time in nature far from technologies and in a quiet, peaceful environment is now a dream vacation of many of us. And the next one is a green travel marketing. So as going like continuing from the trends that I just mentioned, of course, that countries now, when the COVID restrictions are lessening, countries are trying to get their tourists back. So they are trying new ways of marketing. And for example, this is a picture from Visit Sweden. They are, for example, trying these campaigns called edible country campaign or vegan theme campaigns, and they celebrate the country as green, welcoming, and full of responsibly sourced food, as is now trendy, and they believe it could attract more people to just come and travel again to their country. The next one is under 8 kilos. So of course, as outdoor traveling is becoming more and more popular than it used to be, and actually traveling itself often comes up with us having to bring very few items with ourselves, especially when traveling light. This is something that some companies, some shops are now promoting, that they can sell you all that you might need on your vacation under 8 kilos. So you can just take it in your backpack or in your hand luggage if you are traveling by plane. Airplane is the new smoking, and here I am quoting the girls from the podcast Trendspotting, if some of you might know it. And they talk about how airplanes are becoming less and less popular for the emissions, and how trains, and especially night trains, are becoming more popular medium to travel. And again, this might we might also see it as related to slow ways of living, because we might decide twice whether we just go for a weekend if we are going to just spend a lot of hours in the train. Travel is the force for good. This is how Expedia presents the travel trends for 2021. As they say, and as we observe, that volunteering and doing something good for the country that we are traveling to, or for the community that we are visiting, is becoming a very attractive way to spend vacation. And actually doing something good might also mean that we are doing something good for ourselves, as now it's very popular that we travel for a lot of different retreats, like yoga retreats, meditation, and this kind of experiences that are not only discovering the place, but actually discovering something new about ourselves. There's even something called productivity boot camps, where you actually have a coach that travels with you and teaches you something throughout your journey. I'm going to wrap up here in a few slides. Here, actually, I listed some sources that I used and read and listened when I was preparing this presentation. This was, of course, just a glimpse, just something that I thought it might inspire you during this jam. So if you want to know more about it, please go and check this out. I'm also going to share this presentation with you, so you can just go through it when you want. I am a mentor this year, so here is what I can help you with. So as I already said, my design focus ranges from service to a digital product to even physical product, and I can help you along the whole design journey from planning the process, from user research, ideation, prototyping, or testing the prototypes. And of course, any focus or any interest in sustainability or social innovation will be very welcomed, and I will be happy to help you in that kind of stuff. So thank you very much.